855 or log on to kcaaradio.com and advertise.
You can't afford not to.
Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Take a walk on the wild side, where the birds and the bees survive. Right before me, my newfound hippie side.
Hey, welcome everyone to Smart Health Talk Radio Show. I hope it's been a great day for you and you've been out there getting ready for Thanksgiving, which is coming up just a couple of days away. And we're going to be going over some great choices today on Smart Health Talk. I'm your host, Elaine McFadden, a registered dietitian, along with an expertise in organic eating. And we're going to be going over some really good shopping choices because on Smart Health Talk, we want you to get the most nutrition bang for your buck, and we want you to be smart shoppers. That's the whole reason we have the show here. And there's lots of different things involved in shopping and keeping our families and our environment, our planet healthy. And so we cover a wide range because our major expertise is public health. And there's lots of things involved in public health, lots of things that threaten our health. And we're going to be going over some of those later on in the show. But right now we have a guest on the line. I want to get right to her because we're going to be talking with her in regards to something in our environment that is risking our health. And if anyone that has studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know that the bottom level, the most important level of all, is having a shelter, food, water, a place, of course, a home, shelter, and these basic necessities. But when the land you have your house on is underwater, because the ocean and the sea level has risen so high that it's pretty much eaten up that land, enveloped it, this is a problem. But it's not just homes. It's so much more that's at risk with our sea levels rising. And our scientists, they actually know what's going on. We have so many things that scientists were warning us about or predicting even 60 years ago that we're just now discovering, hey, they were right. We don't want that to happen with climate change and sea levels rising. We need to get and take action right now. But what are we going to do about the damage that we can't stop? There's some we're talking billions and trillions of dollars at risk. So Supervisor Kate Sears from Marin County, her and a whole group of people, along with other cities as well, is taking action against big oil because they believe this is the core of the problem, and it's going to be putting so much at risk in their area that they have to take action. So, Supervisor Sears, are you with us?
I am with you, and thank you so much for having me.
Well, I hope I got that right when I was giving you the introduction.
You did, and I loved your introduction, and I'm so pleased to be on a show that it's about public health, because I think so often people do not think of the connection between climate change and sea level rise and public health. So it's really a pleasure to be here.
Well, yes, that and everything about our oceans. We don't realize how much we depend on our oceans, and this whole, where I want to get into a little bit of where we got here, because I had a simple explanation explained to me about what's going on with the methane, ice that's in the ocean, and I thought it was really great that Madam Secretary covered the permafrost yesterday, or a day before yesterday. I like it when TV shows work these kind of messages in, because the news isn't covering it. So
Absolutely right.
we needed to get to the people as much as possible. And I just really appreciate you and your team and the action that you're taking, because as a public health dietitian, I'm perfectly aware of the tobacco lawsuit that was very successful, because I was working in public health with the county at the time, and we had programs that were actually paid from that money.
Fantastic.
And they were programs that were for people's benefit, not trying to give them cancer. So,
You bet. Excellent. Good.
yes, and so why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of background, and I'm curious your own personal connection to this as well, because I find that there usually is a personal connection when people are very motivated
Absolutely
to take
right.
action.
Yep.
And I would love to hear what that is as well.
Happy to tell you. So as you said, I'm a supervisor for the county of Marin, and my district is in southern Marin. So the southernmost part of my district has the northern tower of the Golden Gate Bridge in it, just to get everybody oriented. And so Marin County, we really have water on two of our three sides. The east side of Marin County is along San Francisco Bay, and the west side of Marin County is obviously on the ocean. And just to introduce me a little bit, I grew up in this county. I was born in San Francisco, and I was raised in Marin County, and my parents were very, very strong environmentalists. So I was raised with an ethic of activism to protect our environment. So it's always been something that's very important to me. I also, before I became a county supervisor, I was a lawyer for 22 years, and the last 6 of those years I was with the California Attorney General's office in San Francisco in the consumer law section, and I prosecuted bad actors during the financial crisis, so I was the lead lawyer in the first lawsuit filed against Countrywide Bank.
Okay, you're now on our hero list.
Yeah, so you can tell, I feel strongly about the environment, and I love going after bad guys. And I think, to deal with climate change, we need to really use every tool in our toolbox, right?
Absolutely. That's what they teach us in public health, too.
Exactly right. So we need to be working on the mitigation side, reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We need to be planning how we're going to adapt to sea level rise. And those are good planning activities. We need to be educating people, but we also need to be filing lawsuits. And so when I got into office in 2011, and in 2013, I started a sea level rise pilot project in southern Marin that was really a fantastic public education opportunity. And I got that idea because, in addition, as part of my responsibility as a county supervisor, I serve on the Bay Conservation and Development Commission that's in charge of really taking care of San Francisco Bay. And that commission is very engaged in sea level rise issues. So I thought, well, I need to get engaged in this in the county of Marin, and I really need to get our public engaged. So we had a good public sort of education for ourselves and for many of our residents about the impacts of sea level rise in southern Marin. We're already, climate change is not an abstraction for us. We already have king tides that flood our roadways on a very regular basis, and we're talking over 20 times a year. We have blue sky flooding just caused from sea level rise. And
this wasn't happening before supervisors.
That's exactly right. This is new. This is not something that was happening when I was growing up in Marin County in the 50s and 60s. This is brand new, and it's been increasing, in the amount of water over the last few years. The benefit of having your feet wet is that it helps you understand that it's a real issue and it's not an abstraction. And so we have done sea level rise vulnerability assessments. We started for coastal Marin, and then just this past year, we finished our sea level rise vulnerability assessment for the San Francisco Bay side of Marin. And this is an important step to take, because what you do in a vulnerability assessment is you look at all of your assets, whether it's buildings or roadways or telecommunications, buildings, commercial areas, private homes, you name it, and you say, how much is that asset going to be affected by flooding, and can it recover from flooding? And we have very good technical staff here, sophisticated flooding and sea level rise engineers and staff in the county. And so we did this great assessment, vulnerability assessment, and it was a collaboration between the county and the cities and the towns. And that piece is very important because, as I'm sure you know, in public health, one of the big impediments to so much that we want to do are jurisdictional boundaries and people's lack of a habit of really working constructively together. And so this was a great collaboration to analyze the impact on our county of sea level rise, and it was sobering. But it also gave us good data, because you can't really plan for how you're going to adapt to sea level rise unless you understand your assets and you have good data. So we finished that last April, and that was sobering for us, both in the present and the near term and the long term impact on our county, just the impact on people, right? And it was also sobering in terms of how are we going to manage to pay for adaptations that we decide we want to do. And so shortly after we finished that sea level rise vulnerability assessment, we started talking about the possibility of filing a lawsuit against the major oil and gas company and coal companies. And so we did that, and we filed in July. And this is a very exciting lawsuit because we have a lot of defendants. We filed against all the major oil, gas, and coal companies and their affiliates. That's 34 defendants. And Marin County of Marin filed a lawsuit, County of San Mateo filed a lawsuit, in the city of Imperial Beach. We all filed at the same time. And this is a very important lawsuit because it relies on sort of state-of-the-art science, which has developed to the point where we can really assess how much greenhouse gas emissions are resulting from the products that are sold and marketed by each of these companies. And so that's a very important piece of it. We can attribute responsibility for a certain amount of greenhouse gas emissions. And these defendants that we've sued against altogether comprise a little over 20% of all greenhouse gas emissions worldwide through their products that they've marketed. The other piece of it that's very important is that there became publicly available materials from these companies and their business association that showed what the companies knew and when they knew it. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look at our complaint, but it's going to give you flashbacks to what you knew and know about the tobacco industry and the misinformation campaign that they engaged in. And
I see it every single day when, just to give you a quick example, because we have had, we've also looked at the agriculture component of climate change because it's significant. And so I had the Rodale Institute that it's done all this research, and there's, and all these other climate scientists, and they were saying, oh, well, we haven't had 410 parts per million carbon in the air since the dinosaurs were here.
In 800,
And no, millions of years ago. And then on Yahoo, I couldn't believe it. They had, and this is what I've been saying for like three or 4 years since I've had them on my show. And so then on Yahoo, there was first of all, there was one story that said, we haven't been this high for 3 million years, right? Yeah. Then all of a sudden, you wouldn't believe this. Another story comes out that says, oh, we haven't been this high for 800,000 years. And I thought, oh, that's probably the oil industry trying to soften up what's really happening, because we don't want everyone scared now, do we?
Well, that's an interesting thought.
It's called the Merchants of Doubt.
Exactly right.
And they hire those people to put that kind of stuff out. And when I saw both of those on Yahoo at the same time, I thought, okay, someone here is not right.
Exactly. And let me give you one of my favorite examples from our lawsuit. And the lawsuit is a great read about this story because, these companies could afford to hire the best experts, right? And so they had their own experts doing research on climate change so they could be able to assess how they needed to protect their own business.
Oh, yeah.
So here's an example from these public documents. So in October of 1979, an Exxon internal study found that, quote, the present trend of fossil fuel consumption will cause dramatic environmental effects before the year 2050, end quote, and that the, quote, potential problem is great and urgent. This is what Exxon knows in October of 1979. In 1991, wow. Shell releases a 30-minute film that's called Climate of Concern, that warned of climate change's negative consequences, ranging from sea level rise and wetland destruction to greenhouse gases. So this 1991 film concludes, quote, climate warming is not yet certain, but many think that the wait for final proof would be irresponsible. Action now is seen as the only safe insurance. So that's 1991. And so then what happens? So these fossil fuel companies didn't put that knowledge to good. They put it to use for their own interests, but instead of sharing it with the public and making us informed, instead they launched a public campaign to create doubt and discredit the scientific consensus about climate change. So this campaign included various advertisements, and one of them said, the most serious problem with catastrophic global warming is it may not be true. And another one said, who told you the Earth is warming? Chicken Little? Well, this is an unbelievable story, right? I mean, you have this incredible scientific evidence.
Yeah, and that playbook has been used
in 1991.
over and over.
And what do you do with it? You then have a misinformation campaign.
Yeah, and they use that same thing over and over and over again. And you know why I want you to sock it to them so much, Supervisor Sears, is because even, I've been around for a while. So back in the 80s, a friend of mine they were building a houseboat, this couple, and they wanted to put solar panels that generate electricity. They actually were invented in the 80s. But because Exxon bought the patent, they only allowed 200 a year to be made and sold.
Seriously? I hadn't heard that.
Yes. Yes, and they were buying all kinds of patents that had to do with green energy so that they could make sure that it didn't get out to people and it wasn't ever come to manufacturing.
Fascinating. Well, you remember when President Jimmy Carter had the solar panels on the White House?
Yes, and then they ripped them.
And then Reagan took them off.
Yep. There you go. That tells you right there. These are signs of what people are for and against.
Right.
And I don't know why people want to, put people in charge that are against the very things that are going to protect us. And you were talking about the science and the proof that you have that the oil companies are responsible. Well, did you guys look at also how much we are already for the future, like what we have already projected and kind of promised that we're going to be using with oil is actually putting us over the line. There's actually a line where there's a place of no return. And this methane ice that
you're absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, I was going to explain about the methane.
You were cutting out for a second, so I lost you.
Oh, okay, yeah, the methane ice that is being melted because the Arctic is actually three times getting warmer, 3 times faster than the rest of the planet. And with the methane ice that's being released and going to the surface, this methane is like so much worse than carbon.
Right.
If we keep on this cycle where we're exposing the land, I guess that white actually has all the colors in it, and that's why it reflects off because it's almost like crazy. But when you have gray, it just absorbs more and more, and so we're on this horrible cycle. And when I starting to learn more about the permafrost and the methane that's under the permafrost, so we start melting this methane gas and destroying the permafrost and letting all the methane that's trapped underneath that, and who knows what else is trapped underneath there, we are really in big trouble here. And that is why what you are telling us, Supervisor Sears, is so important, because this kind of information that's being told to people is so dangerous.
Exactly.
That mental attitude. Yes. Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the other initiatives that we have that is, along with this the lawsuit is very important. One of the other initiatives that we just launched is called Drawdown Marin, and I hope that you're familiar with Project Drawdown.
No, explain that to us.
Paul Hawken. And if you're not, I urge you to really look into that, because it's a fantastic analysis of the steps that people can take, and it's worldwide, to really address exactly the threat that you're talking about, and the urgency of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And it gets into your agricultural interests as well, because I think it's number 3 in the ranking of what kinds of actions will have the largest impact. And number 3 is reducing food waste. And number 1 is reducing refrigerant coolers. But it's a wonderful book, because it gives you a sense of hope and something practical to do. Because if thinking about the methane, thinking about what's happening in the Antarctic, it's easy to say we're on such a trajectory here, such a frightening trajectory, that you're tempted to give up. And none of us want to do that. And so Project Drawdown really kind of creates a roadmap or different alternatives of what you can do. And so taking that project, on October 3rd, we launched Drawdown Marin. And that's all about getting individuals to take individual action to reduce their own greenhouse gas emissions, whether it's getting rid of your gas stove and getting an electric stove, whether it's leasing or buying an electric car, cutting down on your food waste. There's so many things that each of us can do as individuals, and I think it's just crucially important. I'd be happy to send you information about all that.
Oh, yes. I want to put that up on our website, because, like you said, action, people can't, trust me, having to report all this stuff, it's like major weight on my shoulders. But yes, it's easy to get down and to lose hope. And the thing is, when each one of us is doing something to contribute to start reversing this and changing our habit, it's so powerful. And I really appreciate you mentioning that, because action is what we need, but people they want to help, but they're not sure what to do. And it sounds like this is the perfect tool. And I'm curious, how have you been reaching the people in your area? What are some of the ways that you're reaching out to them and getting the messages out?
Well, there's a lot of things I do, because I'm very oriented to public, to outreach and communication. I'm also very, very fortunate to be in a county with a very strong environmental activist history and present. And so we have a lot of people in our community who, as you say, are just anxious, they're eager, they're impatient to actually take action. So that's a sort of a natural network of environmental activists. But we made a real effort with our Drawdown Marin launch on October 3rd to reach out to the business community. And because, there's so many people that it's hard to get their attention. Everybody's working, they're raising their families, They're busy. They don't really want to pay attention. And so this is why I think your radio show is so important. It's like all the different ways that we can think of to try to get people's attention, and the focus on health. So our Health and Human Services Department has recently really made a commitment to sort of having climate change in everything that they do.
Oh, great.
And that's very powerful, because if you look, we're swayed by hurricanes, we're swayed by flooding, the things that we can really see. And here in Northern California, we've had the terrible fire disaster in Sonoma and Napa counties in October.
Oh yes, all the wineries.
Awful, right?
The wine, everybody, the wine. Is like,
yeah.
Save the wine.
And that's a climate change issue, right? And so, and the impacts on people who have allergies, and how climate change is exacerbating people's allergies. This is already happening. So, it's really telling the story broadly, because the impacts, I've been very focused on sea level rise, but the impacts are all across the board, as you know. And that's how we really maximize the people, I think, that we're able to reach out to and get engaged, because people kind of get connected on different topics, and we're trying to get them where they are.
Yes, and you are laser focused, Supervisor Sears, and I think you are so on target. I'm wondering, what are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, so on the back on the lawsuit, because that's our topic, and this lawsuit is very specifically focused on the impacts of sea level rise in our county, and it's focused on state law and nuisance and sort of basic fundamental legal claims that our court system is very familiar with. And so we really want to protect our residents, because who would now have to pay for adaptation to sea level rise? Our taxpayers. And we think that the people who should pay for the impacts that we're already suffering, and we will be suffering, because as you said, we have so much greenhouse gases, we have methane emission issues, we have a lot baked into the system already. Even if we reduced our carbon emissions to zero tomorrow, we're still going to be dealing with the impacts going forward.
Yes.
And so we believe that the folks who sold those products, that created those greenhouse gas emissions, should pay for our adaptation measures. And so that's what we're looking to get, support in being able to accomplish the adaptation that we know we're going to have to do to protect our citizens. And so that's what I'm hoping to accomplish through the lawsuit. Through our Drawdown Marin, I'm a very focused, impatient, pushy kind of person.
I love it.
And I'm trying to get us to take action right away to really significantly reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, because I think so often the conversation in the past has been, all of this is going to happen at the end of the century, and some of this other stuff might happen by 2050. Most of us think in much shorter time periods than that, right? And we really, as you noted, we are getting to a tipping point very quickly. And so this is an initiative to try to get us to significantly reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 2025. And we got to step it up. And I believe that we can, but we really have to do it. I also had chaired the board of MCE Clean Energy, which was the first community choice aggregation organization that provides an alternative to, for us it's Pacific Gas and Electric. You probably have other power providers in your location. But we were the first in the state of California to create this organization that is a source of renewable energy. And now these alternative renewable energy providers are springing up all over the state of California. We've seen a sea change in interest in and commitment to and support for renewable energy.
That's exciting.
And so this is, it's really exciting.
Well, I'd like to read a quote here.
I'll send you a lot of information.
Well, I'd like to read a quote here that I think you're going to love, Supervisor Sears, that I was going to include in my in the rest of the show today. And we've actually so that it's a yearly benchmarking study that's used to levelize the cost of energy analysis. And so what their conclusion is, in many regions, the full life cycle costs of building and operating renewables-based projects have dropped below the operating costs alone of conventional generation technologies such as coal or nuclear.
Right.
So the cost is like now lower. So it's like, and to me, that nuclear, I have reported on that so many times, because it's not if, it's when. And we just had a radioactive cloud detected over Russia. Who knows where that's coming from? But every single one of these nuclear power plants is a disaster waiting to happen. They're aging. They're leaking. We have thousands of them around the world. We have no place to put all the waste. It's sitting right there next to it at San Onofre, right on an earthquake fault, a bunch of radioactive waste, everybody. You know, and it's like, why are we risking this? Why are we destroying our rivers and our salmon and our food sources? In Alaska, they want to build a gold mine and risk destroying half of the world's seafood supply. So I asked the person that was on my show that's the expert on this. I said, what is the motivation? And she said, well, people may think that we need gold for electronics and these other things, but she said we have enough right now that we could recycle it forever for that purpose. She said the reason is jewelry. So we can have more jewelry, gold jewelry. We're going to risk half of the world's seafood supply, a pristine supply that is a role model for the rest of the world. And this is by letting a foreign mining company come into our country. If you could get some, if you want to get some money, I want to get everybody working here that there is a 1877 law that is not collecting royalties from mining. We are the only country in the world that is not collecting royalties, and that money could go into a fund to help this cleanup. We have 1 million toxic mines just sitting there because companies abandoned them and didn't pay for cleanup because that would have cut into their profits. And we're letting people take this federal land and just raping it and then leaving it full of all kinds of toxins. You get up in Montana, they have a lake that will be forever, and there's coal mines too, where the water is constantly causing this. It's an acid that starts with an S. I can't remember, but it's causing this horrible acid to be developed, and that's why there is a forever lake up in Montana that this beautiful. Group of geese that are endangered landed on it. They all died, and they can't stop it because it feeds itself because the mine on what they did in the mine. So it's forever polluting. But this stuff can all happen. And why are we allowing foreign countries to come? What are we getting out of this?
It's just horrifying.
I know.
Yeah, it's really horrifying. And I don't know if you saw, it was, I guess, last week maybe, in the New York Times had a full-page spread that showed pictures of the endangered animals that have been negatively impacted by hurricanes and fires that we've had, throughout the country.
Oh, I know. I think about them.
Oh, it just broke your heart. And so, the health issues, the impact on species, all of it is just... I'm so glad that you're paying attention to all these issues. We're right there with you.
Well, it's work like yours that actually gets this done, and I hope you get a multi hundreds of millions of dollars.
We're looking for billions.
Oh, really? Are you? Yes, yes. Because you got to hit them.
This stuff's expensive.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're not paying for the true cost of mining, the true cost of using these fossil fuels, the true cost of food. It's creating all this extra pollution and environmental disasters that these people are pocketing the profits, and the taxpayers are paying for it, and we're paying for it in more than money. This is losing. Did you hear about how the Keystone Pipeline spilled 210 gallons of oil?
I did.
And this is days before Nebraska was going to make their decision on whether they were going to allow the pipeline. So I'm really hoping that this was an eye-opener.
And approved it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, they hadn't approved it. They were going to make the decision. And get this. They want to put this over an aquifer that's one of the biggest water aquifers in the world. And they're going to put an oil pipeline that leaks like this. And this isn't the first. They've had 3 accidents so far this year.
It's really horrifying.
And you know what?
It really is.
No, this is what I learned today. I want to share this with you as Supervisor Sears because I'm extremely upset. I knew something was going on, but I didn't really have like the perfect way to say it. But in that Keystone Pipeline, what they're transporting is tar sands. Tar sands is thick and sticky. So how do you think they get it to move through the pipeline? Yeah. Oh, well, they have to mix it with hazardous chemicals before it will move through the pipeline. So not only do we have these tar sands that are already full of toxins themselves, we are mixing who knows what with that tar sands because it's thick, sticky stuff we needed to move through the pipeline. I want to know what the heck they're mixing it with because it's sitting there in that 210,000 gallon spill that just was released. Now everyone who thought Standing Rock had no purpose and no relevance, look at it now. And this is just a fraction there. I have a map that shows all the oil spills that have been happening around our country. They're happening all the time, but they keep them hidden. And they're not told in the news, just like the kind of information that we have now. But I'll tell you, as soon as I read your story, Supervisor Sears, and I knew what you guys were going to do, I knew how big it was, and I knew how important it was. That could actually, you could change our world with what you're doing. And I appreciate it so much. I really appreciate it. And I thank you for your time today and for educating us on this. And I hope that you'll be adding more other counties to your lawsuit as well.
We like all the activism out there, whether it's lawsuits or it's individual activism for the environment. So I encourage everybody who's listening to your show to get out there.
All right. Woo! All right. Watch out, oil companies. We're coming after you. I love it. All right. All right, Supervisor Sears, thank you so much for joining us today.
You bet. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, everyone, that was Supervisor Kate Sears from, I guess, the southern tip of Marin County over by the Golden Gate Bridge. So one of the most important parts of San Francisco. How many people have stood in that park and looked over there at that bridge? I have my picture. Okay, and I love what they're doing, and, we need to make people pay for what they've done. This damage did not happen. They've been, loving these profits all these years, so now they get to pay. Now, I have a lot more stuff that I want to go over with you guys today because, hey, that's what we're about. We want to make sure you guys are educated. And, again, we were talking about Thanksgiving. I have some stuff here. I'm hoping I got some time to go over with you. I just have a few things I'm going to read through, and then we're going to get to my suggestions for Thanksgiving dinner. And in case you didn't know, you can always tune into our show on KCAAradio.com. And if you tuned in today, you may think, oh, she must be with Fox News because I got low-cut top on. No, I'm not with Fox News. Just a low-cut top. And I want to thank the American Cancer Society for my outfit today because that's where I love to go shopping with their special sales. And I get enough money that I save on clothes because clothes are way expensive that I get to eat an all-organic diet. And I've got some reasons here why you would want to too. But first, I'd just like to say we want to, we were happy it was America's Recycles Day, and we hope that recycling doesn't get very much press, unfortunately. Recycling can create jobs, everyone. Not only that, but it cleans up our country. There are countries, the first all-organic country has now banned water bottles. They banned styrofoam. We should be doing all this stuff. We don't need this. It's just creating trash and pollution. It takes 1 million years for styrofoam to break down. That's the kind of information that you learn when you go to our resources tab on smarthealthtalk.com and look for recycling. We have several pages on recycling to help you do a better job and take action yourself. Please go check it out. Now, we also had announced that hydroponics has been approved for organic. We are 100%, 1,000% against it. We feel like it's lying to the consumer. We are now calling for consumers to stop buying their produce at supermarkets. I want you to think about going where you can get the really fresh produce that'll last longer. It'll actually be saving you money because it was just picked. It hasn't been stored. And I know for a fact that even Stater Brothers, they are using a pesticide in their stored produce. I was very upset when I heard that. It's not enough that people have to have all the pesticides that they spray during growing. Then they're spraying Roundup to kill it, so you're getting Roundup right before it's harvested. Then they store grain and they fumigate it with methyl bromide, which actually killed several members of a family when it was sprayed under a trailer not that long ago. Very, very toxic. And then we take it, and also that happens in warehouses, they're fumigating. And then our produce is sitting in the storage for a grocery store, and they're fumigating it again. Not happy. I hope you're choosing not to use that anymore, Stater Brothers. That was on my Department of Agriculture report. Okay, so eatlocalgrown.com will hook you up with a local farmer. I go down to my turkey was never frozen. It was raised humanely by a local farmer. I am thrilled to have Friendship Ranch turkey for my dinner. We can get our meat, our milk, all different kinds of things locally from our local farmers, and we know it's not hydroponic. We know how it was grown. We know the people that grew it, and it just has so much more meaning and so much more satisfaction by giving local people our money. And you're going to enjoy your food a lot more too, I guarantee you. Okay, and we have lots of stuff happening with pesticides on the global market. It was unveiled that Monsanto has not been transparent about their information that they're supplying to the European Union. Newly published research says 2 of Canada's most commonly used pesticides cause songbirds to lose weight and their sense of direction. There's very good evidence that a little dose in their feeding could be enough to have serious impacts. So just little tiny bits of these pesticides have killed 1 billion songbirds, and it messes them up just like the bees. So we've lost 1.5 billion since 1970 of our songbirds. In the real world, any bird that experiences these effects is pretty much a dead bird. Okay, so that pesticides are applied just as birds are increasing their food intake to get ready to migrate. So that's pretty. And then we passed a law that we cannot spray pesticides around schools if that's happening around your school, if you're right next to a farm. And the thing is, this is actually hurting farmers in a way because they did not ask for that school to be built there. They brought the school to the farm, not the farmer to the school. And so this is the city. This is the people that built it. It's their fault. And we in Coachella right here, we had 50 people that were exposed to pesticides sprayed right across the street from it. So we have it going on here. And they can't spray within a quarter mile of a preschool or a K-12 school between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. I don't know. It seems like I've been smelling something kind of weird in Redlands around at night. I'm wondering if they're spraying pesticides at night. I'm going to be checking that out during the school week. So that starts January 1st when it goes into law. Okay, infertility, big time problem. We are having infertility problems, and they are saying they are linked to pesticides. But we've been saying that on Smart Health Talk. Dr. Senev, go to our homepage, click on that. If you're experiencing infertility, I can even do counselings, Elaine at smarthealthtalk.com. You need to get on an all-organic diet, I'll tell you that. That would be the first thing that I would do. And we're actually exposed to 17 times more pesticide than in the 60s right now. And not just the pesticide. So we're looking at low sperm counts that just came out. This just came out in July. Low sperm counts. There has been a decades-long decline in sperm count for men in North America, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, according to a review of 185 studies. And they said there has been a 52.4% drop in sperm concentration and 59.3% drop when it comes to total sperm count. That's like 60% drop, everyone. No wonder women can't get pregnant. I mean, they said that this is not only an indication of a problem with fertility, this is an indication of the health of the man. This is very, very serious. And infertility, it's just going to keep getting worse. Find our interview with Dr. Tyrone Hayes, Smart Health Talk, Dr. Tyrone Hayes on YouTube. He said we have already done the damage, and in 3 generations, it's going to be massive. So this is extremely serious. We all need to get on the organic. You know, our country cannot even produce enough organic food for the demand. And we have the farm bill coming up. Why are we not supporting organic farming in this country? Why instead are we supporting GMO farming, biofuels, and all this crap? Most of what's grown in the central part of our country can be counted on one hand. Where's the biodiversity in our food system? Why are we having to import food that we don't even know really how it was grown? Okay, we're running out of time here. I'm telling you, hand sanitizers, don't use them. Keep them away from kids. You know, they can be as high as 95% alcohol. If a child gets more than even just a little lick from licking their hand, they can actually get alcohol poisoning, which can actually cause death. So that is extremely serious. And if you work around hand sanitizers and then touch a credit card, run a credit card and that tape that comes out, or the cash register tape, you're going to be absorbing way more BPA, which again can lower and impact your infertility as well. Okay, where's my other paper here? Let's see, what else do we have? Okay, I want to get to the organic stuff because that's the fun part. Uh-oh. Oh, and our Blue Monarch Project, please check out bluemonarchproject.com. We're proud to report we have released about 10 monarchs so far this week. We have another 5 at home that just hatched today. And I mean, I have so many eggs, I can't even tell you how many eggs I have. I need more milkweed really bad. I'm going to have to buy about $400 worth of milkweed. If you guys want to contribute to our effort to bring the monarchs back to our area here, please go to bluemonarchproject.com and click on the donate button. We really need money for the milkweed right now. And we have all these caterpillars. I don't have enough milkweed, so any help with that would be appreciated. Okay, shopping for Thanksgiving. Okay, everyone's going to be making sweet stuff. Wholesome sweetener, organic sugar. What you're eating, what you're buying in the store is GMO beet sugar that's in the bag. It's not hardly any cane sugar. If it says cane sugar, it is, but otherwise GMO beet sugar. There's glyphosate in there. We know it causes cancer. Wholesome sweetener. Trader Joe's has a great price on sugar, or you can get it at Costco. That's another good place to get organic sugar. Buy in bulk. I have some walnuts here that I got from Clark's Nutrition. And when you buy in bulk, you save a lot of money. So I got some pecans and some walnuts because I'm going to be baking. Okay, Pacific Foods, one of my very favorite. They make soups, but here is the whole berry cranberry sauce. That's my favorite. And I'll tell you, the chlorpyrifos pesticides that are destroying our children's brain, actually putting dents in them, causing autism, learning disabilities. Cranberries is one of the biggest food products that those pesticides are used on. So I highly recommend you go for the organic cranberry sauce to avoid those pesticides. Okay, next I have Native Forest. Native Forest, I love this company because pineapple is super pesticide laden. And they have, I recommend that you get the chunks of pineapple versus the crush because they probably put the center part in the crush and make more money. Wholesome Sweetener also has a great organic chocolate frosting. And I don't know if I'll get to it, but Singing Dog Vanilla, organic vanilla Madagascar, the really good kind. They actually have an organic frosting mix now that has little pieces of the vanilla bean in it. So that's pretty cool. So I have my organic pumpkin pie mix here, and I get the I get organic evaporated milk, and my eggs, of course, organic too. So anyway, this is Farmer's Market brand, and that's the pumpkin pie mix. Oops, I got 2 of those. So I wanted to show. Okay, here's my Singing Dog vanilla right here. They actually have a vanilla bean paste, which is really incredible. And then I have a really nice cream of mushroom soup, which we're going to be using from Pacific Foods with our green beans. And here's a sweetened condensed milk that's all organic. So those of you that love to make candies and bake things for Christmas and that, please try to add that. And Color Kitchen is a great way to get artificial colors as well. Okay, I got I just want to tell you, I got the most incredible tangerines at the farmer's market last week. Brought one for you, Brandon. Brandon's our engineer. And they're like so sweet. I just cut them in half and just like dig my teeth right in. But please go to eatlocalgrown.com, find a local farmer's market or a farmer and start buying your produce and your meat and all your other products direct. Let's punish the government for letting big corporate take over our food system and our organic program. They want to allow hydroponics, then we are going to bypass the grocery store and we're going to buy farmer direct. Thanks for listening to Smart Health Talk, and please go check out all our social media and join us. And please go to Blue Monarch Project and help us with our milkweed. We really do need your help, everyone. We're bringing the monarchs back. It's going to be great. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds and the bees survive? Would your children lie to see Mother Nature sigh?
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
I'm Tanya Hansen, CNBC. New record highs for all 3 indexes. The Dow rising 160 points to 23,590. The Nasdaq up 71. The S&P adding 16. Ahead of the big holiday shopping season, Urban Outfitters surged after the retailer posted strong third-quarter sales led by growth at its Free People and Anthropologie stores. It's a seller's market. The National Association of Realtors says existing home sales rose 2% last month. A shortage of homes on the market is boosting home prices. The median house price increased 5.5% from a year ago to $247,000 in October. That's the 68th consecutive month of year-on-year price gains. The U.S. International Trade Commission is calling for a tariff rate quota on imported Samsung and LG washers. The recommendation comes after Whirlpool pushed for limits on its South Korean rivals to stop them from flooding the American market with cheap machines. Tanya Hansen, CNBC.
If your dog has shedding, dry skin, excessive scratching, I would recommend Dynovite.
Order a 90-day supply of Dynovite for your dog this week.
We'll send you a bottle of Super Mega Fish Oil free.
Packed with omega-3, DHA, and EPA fatty acids.
Super Mega is great for your dog's immune system, healthy skin, and soft, shiny fur.
Try Super Omega Fish Oil.
Free this week at Dynovite.com.